Well, I'm happy to be here today. I'm not physical, but online to present you our preliminary results from our project on assessing the impact of energy communities on the distribution grid. And that is a part of the cities project, and it's a collaboration between DTU Compute and Dansk Energi. So why should we be concerned about energy communities? Well, there are ambitious CO2 reduction plans in the EU and also in Denmark, and that led to a raised awareness about climate change in the society. And that also created a growing interest for creating local energy system solutions, and with that also energy communities. Often the aim in such energy communities is to optimize the consumption of locally and sustainably generated electricity. And in order to do that, you would like to have a local energy storage that can store the PV generation during the day and then provide the power in the evening when you actually need it. And that can be, for example, done in a communal battery. So our aim in the project was now to assess what will the impact on the distribution grid be if we have an energy community which has PVs and a communal battery. In order to assess the impact of an energy community, we wanted to do studies on different distribution grid types, because the way that the distribution grid is designed depends heavily on the consumer that it is actually providing the energy to. And we were investigating it based on what impact does it have on the voltage in the distribution grid, and what impact does it have on the loading of the components in the distribution grid. Apart from different distribution grid types, we wanted also to investigate different energy community configurations, because when a group of people decide to form an energy community, they are not aware of the distribution grid structure, and hence from the distribution side, operator side, the energy community could have a different kind of configurations, and that was also what we wanted to investigate in this project. And thirdly, we wanted to investigate what kind of impact have different battery operation strategies, because the motivation for the members of an energy community could be different. Some would like to maximize the self-sufficiency so that they are using as much as possible from the PV power that they're actually generating. Some would just like to do an economic optimization, and some would actually like to help the distribution grid through peak shaving of their consumption. So we want to investigate actually several different kind of parameters, which gives us this cube of different scenarios that we would like to investigate. And in the following, I will show you or guide you through the different parameters that we were investigating, and then at the end show you some preliminary insights that we found. So in order to assess the impact on the distribution grid, we of course need to look at a particular distribution grid. And we built up a distribution grid based on a standard medium voltage grid, which was developed by Ziegler. And then we used, for representing the low voltage grid, representative low voltage grids for Germany, which are based on a PhD study which was carried out in 2011 in Germany. With that, we could create different distribution grids, one for a city area, one for a village area, and then one for a suburban area. And the structure is always that we have a medium voltage grid, which is overlaying the low voltage grid, and then we have two low voltage grids connected to the medium voltage grid. So if we want to, so as I mentioned, we want to investigate different energy community configurations, and you can see the configurations that we investigated here on this slide. The first type of energy community configuration is a rather simple one, where all members of the energy community are actually connected to the same low voltage feeder, which is indicated down here. And if these members of the energy community want to exchange power with each other, The only part of the grid which is utilized is actually this cable here connecting them. But there can be other configurations. For example, our configuration 2, where we assume that all members are still under the same medium voltage to low voltage transformer, but they are actually spreading over different low voltage feeders. And you can see an example down here again. Here, the members of the energy community are across 2 different feeders. And now if this member wants to, if a member on this feeder wants to exchange power with a member on that side, the power actually has to go through the low voltage grid up here and then down again here. So that is a larger part of the low voltage grid which will be affected. And then we have a third configuration that we wanted to investigate, which is that the members of the energy community are actually spreading across multiple medium voltage to low voltage transformers. And that can be seen down here, where we have our one part of the energy community located here and another part of the energy community over here there. And now if members from this side of the energy community want to exchange power with members on this side, the power actually has to travel through the low voltage grid up into the medium voltage grid into the other low voltage grid. So it's a bigger part of the grid that is actually used in order to exchange power between the different members of the energy community. So these were the different grid types that we wanted to look at and the different energy community configurations. We also looked into different battery operation strategies, and based on the strategy that one energy community has, the amount of PVs and the size of the battery will also vary. So we have some base criterions which need to be fulfilled, or which are defining the size of the PV and battery system. So we did some optimization based on investment cost, based on operational costs, so grid tariffs, fees, taxes, and power consumption and power sales. And then we had some add-on criteria for our 3 strategies, battery operation strategies that we wanted to investigate. The first one was that we wanted to investigate a strategy which is about self-sufficiency. So here the aim was that the energy community is consuming the entire PV generation that they are producing. The second one is the energy community is aware of that they are consuming power from the grid and that there can be peak consumption hours, and they actually want to relieve the distribution grid by decreasing their maximum peak consumption. And there we were decreasing the maximum power consumption in steps by 5%, and then investigating how much would that cost and what are the technical results from that. And the third one is that we have an energy community which is simply going to optimize with respect to their profits and to minimize their costs. So the approach for investigating these different parameters was that we were running time series power flow simulation, where we were representing households with consumption profiles which take into account simultaneity of that the consumption of individual households is varying, and we were using an optimal battery operation profile, which I explained earlier how we derived that one. And then we were simulating 2 summer weeks and 2 winter weeks to take into account changes due to different weather patterns. And then we assessed the results based on the minimum and maximum voltage that we observed, as well as the loading of the cable. And we wanted to investigate 3 questions. Does the location of the battery matter? How much can an energy community actually contribute to peak shaving? What is economically and technically feasible with that respect? And how do the 3 operation strategies impact? We have looked into the first 2 questions, and I would like to share 3 insights based on our investigation. The first insight was battery location plays a significant role with respect to grid impact. You can see here results from simulating our strategy 1, so increasing self-sufficiency of the energy community. On the x-axis, you can see the different configurations and grid that we investigated. And on the y-axis, you can see the range of voltages that we observed in the grid. The different colors indicate, or the different bars actually indicate different battery locations. We have blue, our reference case, orange, that battery is located at the beginning of the feeder, so up in the high up in the low voltage grid. And then we have the green case, where the battery is located at the end of the feeder, and red, where it's located actually a commercial customer, which is member of the energy community. And you can see, depending on the battery location, the length of the bars is actually varying greatly. And what we can see from that is that there needs to be a coordination between the distribution grid operator and the energy community in order to find the best location for the battery. The second insight that I would like to share with you is that it is likely that the city grid is going to be impacted most. But that is already because the city grid sees the highest consumption already in the base case. And when you then add a battery, the battery will have to store a large amount of energy to serve the larger number of energy community members. And with that, you will observe that the line loading is actually largest affected here in the city grid compared to the other grids which are shown over here. But the question was now, will it always increase the loading? And no, it will not increase the loading of the low voltage lines. We found also that the impact on the distribution grid is greatly depending on the battery operation strategy that is actually selected by the energy community. What we show here is only for the city net, the results when we use our peak shaving optimization approach. And here we decrease the maximum power consumed by the energy community iteratively. And you can see that actually the low voltage line loading is decreasing also in all configuration. So the energy community can help to gain extra capacity in the distribution grid, and with that make space for new consumers such as electric vehicles and heat pumps. To conclude, well, we set up a platform where we can investigate different kind of energy communities that can be in different distribution grids. It can be different battery operation strategies, and we can also investigate different community configurations. And then I shared 3 insights with you, which were location of battery matters. There needs to be coordination between grid operator and energy community. The insight number 2 was that different grid types will be affected differently, and city grid is likely to be impacted most. And then our third insight was that the battery operation strategy, of course, also plays a significant role when investigating the impact on the distribution grid. Thank you.